That's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, so I thought we'd start this conversation and this progress we're trying to make by just first talking about what we saw in the video and maybe some questions because I don't obviously know everything that goes on in here. I have a pretty good idea because I do a lot of the same stuff.
Sure.
But just kind of figure out what's going on, and then after we get that sorted and talk about what we saw and what we thought and noticed in the video, then talk about some changes and like the direction we want to head in. Does that sound good?
Sounds like a good
Okay.
plan.
And before I even start that, I just want to say thank you, like, times a million for doing this
Sure.
with me. I really appreciate you.
Excuse me.
Because I know you're so busy all the time.
Just a moment.
Constant phone calls.
Miss Campbell's room. Yes, actually, she said she gave Jacob the medicine.
Yeah, he's got it.
He's got it. Yep. I think she may have snuck in the back door, maybe, and you didn't
I saw
see
him when
it.
he was in the bathroom, yeah.
So maybe you'll see a change soon.
Not likely.
Miss Dalton says not likely. Yeah, she says not likely. Okay, I'll tell her. Well, how many times has he been up there? Yeah, you'd sort of have to, wouldn't you? You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Was that Miss Grandstuff?
Yeah. She's like, okay, Summer, you're welcome for that break.
Yeah, I'm so grateful. Chad, he's sitting right outside Chad's door, and Chad's like, he's been driving me crazy today. I was like, this is my life.
This is every day.
Every day for me. I have no idea.
Oh, I know what I was going to say is, actually, I feel like doing this type of recording, we should be doing more.
I really think we
because
should too.
I think that if we can get more used to doing it, and then that apprehension goes down,
Mm-hmm.
it really is a great tool to learn from each other and about ourselves.
Yeah.
Because and I'll just tell you, it felt really different. And I've done some of that in college, but I've not done it in this room, which
Mhm.
is a whole different ballgame. Because that was over a year ago that I have seen myself in a classroom.
Like when you're student teaching.
When I was, student teaching. So for me to be able to see myself, and not that I can fix it all, but it was really easy to see how I could quickly make some adjustments and make things better.
Good. I'm glad you've already
So-
benefited from it without even us having talking yet.
Yep.
I think you're right though. Because of this program, I've had to record my class at least once every semester, and I've noticed a ton of things. And I'm usually really critical of myself, so it helps that I have to show the videos and share them because then people make me feel a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're right. And watching and just being able to share, since we're all supposed to be doing kind of the same thing, seeing how it's happening in each different room would be really a great benefit. Maybe that's something we should bring up to either Becky or Peggy or something.
I think that it would separate us from the pack. Like if we could start.
Oh, if we just did it
I
as a
think
fourth
we
grade
should
team?
just do it as a fourth grade
Okay,
team.
let's bring it up to Claire then.
And I think but we should do it with the precedent that we don't have to all do it exactly the same. It doesn't have to look exactly the same in my class as it does in your class.
Mhm.
Some of us are more comfortable with noise in our classroom. Some of us don't want any noise at all, and so that has to be shifted based on what our comfort level is. But at the same time, I can learn a lot from you the way your stations are working, or how you deal with certain personalities in your class, or the way you do some of the timing that you do. I mean, not all of those little pieces, I could take the things and make mine better, which is what we need to do.
Yeah, definitely. Every time I'm like, I can't figure something out. Like sometimes if I still have trouble with like guided reading or something, I'm like, I wish I could just watch somebody else. I just want to watch somebody else. So you're totally right. That's a good idea. Let's talk to Claire about that maybe at our next PLC when Becky's there on Tuesday. Okay. All right. So first, I'm just going to start with some general questions. So answer them however you feel you need to. I just wanted to hear as much as I could from you. How do you think? It's basically, have you made any significant changes since last Wednesday?
Well, one of the things that I had made right before I think you filmed this, and that I was sort of trying to get myself and my class around, I should have brought it with me, but I created a bookmark, and on that bookmark, I wanted them to pick 2 things to answer. I wanted them to document the pages that they had read, and I wanted them to create it on a particular template, so that, and I wanted, the other thing that I did was, is instead of letting them just read anything they wanted in independent reading, I wanted them to only read the sections of books that I had chosen for them. So if they were an S reader, I had 2 options of S books that they could choose. So during that independent reading, they had to be on one of those 2 books.
Okay.
So those were new things that I had implemented because I wanted them to have a better, not just a better accountability, but also to be more on their grade level. So some of those things had just been sort of implemented, I think, during that section.
Okay, so they were still getting used to
And
it.
there were some of those things that were still happening. And so we've worked on that even more this week because I've had more flexibility with the schedule to really
Yeah, that makes sense.
look at exactly what they're putting down on that paper and are they really answering those questions the way I want them to be answered. So that might be some of, there were some tweaks that I had made right before this, but then I've tried to smooth them out even since then.
Okay.
Does that answer that question?
Yeah.
Sort of?
And do they seem to be adapting to the changes well? And with your practice you've done this week, are they catching on?
They're catching on. It's amazing how long it takes to, even those little things,
Oh, I
those
know.
changes, what that means.
Yeah.
And not, I mean, if they come to me with a book that they really, really want to read, I will look at that and sort of decide, is it on their level? But one of the things, the mistakes I made for, I think, the first half of the year is I wish I had done this earlier because I feel like that some of them were choosing books. It was a waste of time because they were not that reading a book, any book, that is never a waste of time. But you know what I'm saying? They were not pushing themselves
Yeah.
to the extent that they should have been pushing themselves. And that's taken a little bit more organization on my part because that means that I've got to constantly be making sure they've got the right books back there that they can pull from.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
So, but I feel like that the other piece of this is that on the other side of the bookmark, I did a beginning, middle, and end so they have to do summaries. So when they got the book that they chose, they were supposed to put Post-it notes in there. So that when they got to the Post-it note, they did a summary.
Okay.
And then the next third of the book, they did a summary. And then at the end, they did a summary.
Okay.
Because I want them to, I think some of my kids, I was watching them, I feel like they're not finishing books. They're just sort of reading a little bit, and then they're hopping off to the next thing, and they have not learned the satisfaction of moving all the way through a book. So they can't change books.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of my rules. That, and all of this sort of happened right before you did this filming. But I wanted to get them to feel the satisfaction of actually finishing a book on their grade, on their level.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the things that we switched out.
Okay. So those are chapter books you're having them read then? Okay, so it'll
Mhm.
last a while.
It'll last a while.
That's funny because I just changed we practice independent reading all week too. Because I made a few changes 2 weeks ago and they were just like not handling it well. So it's like, okay, we need to practice this apparently 4 times and now we got it.
Mm.
But we'll see how we do when we're actually in stations again. Okay. All right, so a few things, just structural things that, because I wasn't here at the very beginning, I came after you guys got started a little bit, just for my knowledge. How do your students know what stations to go to each day?
I actually do not have it set up so that they are in a certain rotation. They have to be in a station, and they have to do certain stations so many times a week.
Okay.
So there's not like this perfect rotation of groups, like I think you guys have it as groups.
Mm-hmm.
They have a choice of what they want to do.
Okay.
But at the end of that station, each child should have a piece of paper that documents, and there's a guide for each station of what they've done to complete in that station.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they're with me, then they get a ticket.
That's a good idea to keep track of that.
In their box. Yeah. So
Good.
the hard thing is so I'm not doing the notebooks. I'm just doing a bin, and they each have their own file. So then I check to see, okay, Susie should have done X number of stations. What does she have in there? And if she hasn't got it in there, then she should have a ticket because she was back and got a reading with me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the sort of thing that I've changed.
Okay. Are they usually pretty good about keeping track of which ones they've done and which ones they haven't done as the week goes on?
That's something I think that it's a work in progress because I feel like that there are certain stations that they love the fluency. That's actually been one of their favorite stations to do. So, but they can only get to it because there's only so many pieces of material that they can use.
Before, like, enough kids have been there. Yeah.
Yes. So I guess that if there was ever a station that I feel like people have gone to too much, that would be the only one. But at the same time, how can I complain? Because they're doing
Fluency practice is
something
awesome.
that they really need to be doing anyway.
Yeah. Do you think, like, the ones who need it are tending to go there, or is it your really high kids who can do, like, 200 words a minute?
And that's the change right now, because as I'm looking at their scores, now I'm saying, okay, you're reading this amount. This is not a station you need to be in. Go pick a different station.
Okay, good.
And so some of those conversations, are definitely happening. And then the other thing with the station work is I feel like that there's really, I love having everybody reading at one time, because the classroom
It's a magical feeling.
is peaceful, and I think that they like it. So I think I will always, occasionally during the week, say, this is the only station for this 20 minutes, period, and just let them read. Because I think that's the one that they will pick the least, but yet the one that they need the most.
Yeah. Okay. And also, are they allowed to work with whoever they like? They can partner up. On
Now,
their own.
some
Okay.
days I say you can't work. If you've worked with so and so this week, you need to pick somebody new.
Okay.
But I do pretty much let. There's a couple of them that always tend to go together that I have to watch, and try to get them to switch off. But for the most part, my class is really good about switching partners. And sometimes they'll work with somebody in math more so than they do in reading. But they move around. They're very versatile with each other, which is a good thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I noticed that a lot. When I was looking over the video, I saw like two kids were working here together for a while, and then they do something else, and they seem to be like comfortable interchanging.
Moving around.
That's really good for them, because my kids want to stick with that same person, their best friend, the whole time, and it's really hard. So I had to take away choice of partners because of that. So just
They
making more
would move.
choices.
Wow.
Yep.
And I do have a timer that I put on the board.
Yeah, I heard you mention that. I couldn't see it
Okay.
obviously, but I heard you
All right.
refer to it, so I assumed there was a
There
timer
was a
on the
timer
smart
on
board.
the board. The hiccup I have with that I can't quite figure out how to do is when they're doing their independent reading station, they get really into their book, and so then they forget that the time is
Notice
reading.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm not quite sure how to fix that. I don't want to set a 15-minute timer so that they have 5 minutes but that's the only thing I can think of to sort of fix that. Is to only set it for 15 minutes, and then they have 5 minutes to do something else. But anyway, that's a hiccup.
Yeah, that's something I've struggled with too, and the only solution I found, because I didn't want to set a 15-minute timer there, and I've still been doing it all year, is I'll have my normal like station length timer, and then 5 minutes before I'll just make an announcement. I say, if you're doing independent reading, time to start your response. And it's not really the best solution either, because I hate interrupting their focus, but I don't know how else to do it either. All right. Oh yeah, I noticed just in the video that a lot of your pairs, like I saw some boys over here and some girls over there. People seemed really engaged, and out of like the corner of the video, you can even see some kids right here, but you could hear them reading. They just seemed really like they were doing really well that day. So
They were doing really
nice.
well that day. They've gotten much better. This whole thing.
Good. Yeah. And I thought it was really great how you stopped, even though like that's a tough call too. You don't want to interrupt their engagement, but you stopped to acknowledge how awesome they were doing, and I thought that was pretty important.
I feel like so many times all I do is fuss at them all day. Like I'm constantly like redirecting what they're doing wrong, and it's really important, especially for this population, to hear positive from us, and that doesn't come naturally. I have to really consciously try to think about, okay, how many positive times have I given them feedback in a positive way?
Yeah, that's great. You can do that, and like when you do a whole group, hopefully you're hitting everybody. Hopefully they're all hearing it and knowing that you're talking about each of them. Yeah, so that was a great opportunity to do that. I used to, when I worked in Alaska, we had same kind of population, but even lower poverty. And what we were told, we had this program we used called CHAMPS, and what like the director of it told us, kids who like hear only negatives at home mostly, just get yelled at or neglected at home, need to, like when they're in school from us, they need a 3-to-1 ratio of positives to negatives. They need 3 positives to to like be able to overcome every negative you give them, which is
A lot.
That's really hard. But I actually, on the back of my board, I've wrote that little ratio 3 to 1, just so like if I happen to look up at my board, it's a reminder like
Find a positive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even like, and I used to have some kids like Jacob, like, and some of the like professional behavior people would come and be like, acknowledge when he's sitting in his seat, like say nice job
Just the
for sitting
tiniest
down.
things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I can't do that, but like really, he's 10. Okay, and then I was wondering about your whole station rotation. So if they're 20 minutes each, you do about 2 a day. The students are expected to
have
do
2 pieces that they turn in every day.
Okay. All right. Some of these. Oh yeah, I noticed your grandparent volunteer was here. Is that typical?
No, she's not usually here during that block.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, she's usually here at the very end of the day. And the way I've used her has been more of she kind of taps into the students that struggle the most. And so
Not just Marley? Okay, that's really nice.
Yeah. For that day, sometimes she comes in because she knows that it might have been a bad weekend for Marley.
Oh, that's nice.
And so she'll sort of just check in to make sure that she's okay. And that has been awesome because she definitely has a lot.
Does Marley respond well to that?
Stuff. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, her grandmother is nothing but a positive thing.
Good.
For our class and for her. So it's good to have her in the class. And she's really good about even getting on to the kids, you know, like you shouldn't be doing this. And, you know, she fits well.
Good.
She
That's
doesn't
awesome.
distract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That would be bad if she did. I was wondering, that day you said in the video, I don't know if you remember specifically, but you said you told the kids that you guys didn't have enough time for 2 stations that day. I was wondering if you just happened to remember what went on to make not 2 stations fit in that day. Okay, that's fine. I was just wondering because that happens to me sometimes too. Does that happen?
You know, sometimes I do even, like I'll do a station and the next station will just be a short station because that's all that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
But that definitely happens. And sometimes it's because conversations take place, like for the whole class lesson that goes over. Sometimes it is because there's, you know, a kid that's having some sort of problem. Like today I had Miss Isabel just mad as a hornet, breaking her headband. You know, like, so that's not easy to keep on, you can't just keep on cruising. So for me to go back and have the conversation with her to learn that her dad popped the tires, that all these things might be happening in her life, that takes time.
Yeah, it
But
sure does.
I think, I mean, one of the things that last night was this, you know, teacher of the year. She teaches high school. And she had all the kids that were totally in the red and were slated to never graduate from high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things, it made me feel better because I see the problems that my kids have. I can't fix them, but they need to know that I care.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I am the Dear Abby that they are always going to, but, you know, your dad popping the tires as you're trying to drive out of the driveway, that's significant.
That's traumatizing, I think.
Especially for a 9-year-old. Yeah. And that's just one story. I mean, all of these kids have those kinds of stories. And I think it is unfair for me not to at least take some time to try to help them get some tools to cope with some of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, you'll never learn how to multiply 2-digit numbers when in your brain you're thinking about your mom's face and whatever it was that was happening that weekend.
Yeah, you're totally right.
So I know we have to move forward and the train has to steam through, but at the same time, I'm going to have to take time out and do that sort of thing, and that's why I may not get 2 stations in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that totally makes sense. That's something I really admire about you is how well and how like in tune you are with trying to meet your students' emotional needs. Because that's a huge weakness of mine most of the time. Like I'm just like, okay, we gotta get over it, guys. You know, we can't help what happened at home. We need to learn math today. But you're
but I need to probably pull a little bit more of you into, like, I am probably a little bit.
Wait, we could like
too
Trade a little
involved. Yeah,
bit.
maybe I'm too involved. But one of the things this lady last night made me feel better was that she said, she took the time, she found all these people in the community to write letters to her students individually. So she would ask the manager at the Burger King that she, went through every day to write letters to a particular student in her class so that they had pen pals in the community.
Oh, just like whatever letters?
Yeah,
about
just
anything?
how are you, what's going on, and of course through these letters she found out that her students had one set of clothes and that they went from Friday until Monday and didn't have any food. But those are the kind of stories, and I bet that's probably happening or could be happening with some of our population. So, but through those stories, she was able to support them better, and because of that support outside of the classroom, every one of those kids graduated.
That's awesome.
And they probably would not have graduated.
Where was she from?
She was from Ashe County, so I don't know which.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a North Carolina girl. I'm a South Carolina girl. I know some of the counties, but I'm not even really sure where Ashe
Okay.
County is. But she said it was cold and snowy, so I'm assuming it's
Somewhere
from the western.
Yeah.
It's got to be in the western North Carolina.
All right. Something else I was wondering was how, with your new little file folder thing you've got over here, how are your
Yeah.
students doing? Are you able to track and keep them more accountable better? Because I know that was something you really wanted to work on.
Yes, I am. But at the same time, it feels like a monster. Like I've got to figure out a better way for it not to consume my world because I'm
Your
already
entire
consumed.
weekend.
Like I'm
Yeah.
already like up to here with stuff to do. So keeping them accountable is just one more layer on an already overflowing. So I'm not sure. I got to figure that part out. Is how to make that easier.
So,
This is the work that if I had known how to do this, if I had done this in the beginning, that by now this
It
may
would have
not
been
have
totally
been that
figured
big
out.
of a deal.
Yeah.
And so that's my little glimmer of hope. That if I could get this down, then either at the end of this year things are going to get easier, so that I can start off next year with some of these pieces in place.
Mhm.
Definitely this is a year and a half into this thing.
it takes a long time to figure out that, especially at this school, because Peggy does expect a ton from us, and not that it's not a supportive place. We are missing a lot of pieces here to help us be successful in the classroom with our curriculum.
Yeah.
So that's totally understandable.
There's a lot of stuff that we're creating and developing
And just expect to do it all on
and
our
expecting
own,
to do.
and nobody's really telling you to do it.
Right.
So that makes it really hard. How do you decide if like this kid's done enough today? Like, do you just want to see a completed station from everybody? Okay, no matter who it is.
And if it's not a completed station, it needs to have a ticket to say that
Okay.
they were with me.
Okay.
So no longer can they sit somewhere and put just a couple little things down and turn it in.
Mhm.
Now, the other part of this is what do you do with the kids who are not going to get there?
Yeah.
And the silent lunch thing, I hate.
I do too. Yep.
I hate, but I'm not sure what other options I have.
I know what you mean. As you've been doing this new accountability thing and with your new independent reading thing, what have you noticed just about student engagement during station time in general?
I feel like that they actually are very proud at the end of the week when they have a folder full of their work.
So,
I feel like, maybe not for every single child in this class, but I feel like that they have a sense of accomplishment.
That's great. So they're motivated to stay engaged and get their stuff done.
Now that's this week. I haven't done this. My fear is that this new system that I have in place is going to get old.
Yeah, it kind of fizzle out after a while.
Yeah. And they're going to get bored, and that's like, because it is sort of new and interesting, and they're getting to do different things. Okay, so my challenge is going to be when that happens, what am I going to do? Like I already kind of feel like it's going to go there. Do you think that have you seen that?
I
Or not
have,
really?
yeah.
Okay.
With my kids, I mean. I totally know what you're talking about, yeah. You start something new and you teach it really well and it goes great for a while, but then like after you think like we should be fine now, rolling's just great, and then they kind of just lose their stamina for whatever we're working on.
So they're supposed to, if they're doing what they're supposed to do, they're supposed to get game tickets so that they can have time to go do something fun, to go get on the iPad. So I haven't even implemented that really yet. That was a new thing also, because I didn't do that before. So that is, I'm hoping, going to be my piece that I can switch out, because if the goodies are changing, then maybe that makes the stuff in between okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they can play any game they want on an iPad.
Okay, and that's like their like positive consequence for.
Yes.
Okay, got it. I don't remember, but we have to wrap this up because I hear kids.
Okay.
If we're gonna do this again, and I really want to help you improve something specific that can make some great changes. If we had to focus in, like our overarching goal would be how to improve language arts station time in general. If we had to narrow that down a little bit, where would you want to work on the most?
Probably having some more engaging language arts stations, because right now, if you look at my math side, it's like it just rocks.
Yeah, math is a lot easier to find stations for.
And I think my challenge with the reading side is that yes, I could probably come up with stations, but I want engaging stations. I don't want them just to do, stuff
that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
What like category of language arts? Like, would you want vocabulary, fluency, independent reading stations? Which of those would mean the most to you?
Probably vocabulary would be definitely one that would help them tremendously.
And would you want them to be able to interact with their academic vocabulary? Using academic vocabulary? Okay. Okay. All right. Anything else you want me to know or share or about just our process?
I think so.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. We'll talk again soon, and we'll probably even talk about this while we're not being recorded.
Yeah. when we don't have children waiting at the door.
Yep. Like every day. I really do appreciate, though. We never get free planning time, and
No.